All right, so I'm pretty new with this whole writing, streaming, writing and reading streaming that I started. I did try to get a little emote for it though that I had help with. Oh, you're back. Hi. Welcome back. So you get a nice, put you to sleep. I'll read for you. I have done, I think, maybe 3 streams. One was longer, about an hour, and the other one was like 7 to 10 minutes. I'm a bad speaker. I'm not good in speech. I stutter, I stumble, but writing wise, I can write for like this is one of the this is a lighter novel. I have like harder, like not harder, but more intense works. But this is like I can write forever. Like it's all handwritten too. I don't know if you can see it. See, it's all handwritten like that, and it's just pages and pages. I can go on forever. So something I've been working. I have been writing for years and years as a hobby. So let's do a little. I'm gonna do a little recap in case you don't know what's going on. It's this one. It's a nice little fantasy fiction. Oh, that's nice. Yeah, me too. Yeah, I'm not good. I'm not a good speaker. I can't. I haven't even been speaking English for a while either, so that makes it even worse. But either way, I've always been just a slower speaker. Sometimes I can, if I'm prepared and focused, then maybe I'm all right in certain specific areas or whatever. But when I'm on the spot and I just have to say stuff, I am completely. But writing, you can't get me to stop. I can sit down and then just write for hours on end. Okay, so this story, I don't want to say what it's about yet because it kind of unfolds. It's set in it's a fantasy world, so kind of a steampunk is the best way to describe it. So you kind of want to imagine like a 1800s sort of, not late 1700s type area with fictional elements. You'll see. The whole thing begins in the city where there's a brother and a sister, and the sister is taken away. There's fire all over the city from the brother, and there's a doll on the ground that's just nodding its head up and down while the brother is kind of in shock and wondering where she's taken and who these men are that just invaded the city out of nowhere. The second chapter that I've already read, it discusses, it pertains to describing the city itself and the country and this part of the world called Old Land, which kind of derives from the words old and land, as it's pretty obvious. That was quite a few pages, so in short, in this very sort of peculiar city I rewrote the name. I think it's Toronto in this one. No, it's Kairin, sorry. The city of Kairin. There are 2 friends. One is called Tomas. The other is called Zayed. They're both completely dissimilar in terms of Zayed is like a very dark, cinnamon brown skin, black hair, but very pensive, silent type, quiet type engineer, whilst Tomas, who is actually the brother of the girl who was kind of taken away the first chapter, he is constantly a happy-go-lucky, really cheerful fellow, and he's just He's just always cheerful. And anyway, so that was the second part. The second chapter described these guys. The third chapter was in a tavern where the two were having a beer together in it's a unique sort of bar where everything looks like a prison cell, because it was actually a prison cell, but it's a bar, it's a tavern, and it's actually for the privileged, for the rich, because they find it a novelty, to kind of chill in a place that looks so peculiar, so dark and dim. And really the rich and the privileged kind of hang out there, and they're always punctual, and they always arrive at this area in time. So here, Tomas told a story about his sister to Zayed while they were having a beer, of how she's always enthralled. Oh, really? Cool. I love Bradbury. I've read so many Bradburys. Fahrenheit and yeah, and then you'll see how it unfolds. I haven't even finished it, to be honest, but I have a first book, and then they start discussing. Oh, there's also little cable cars. So transport is through by cable cars that run around the city. That's the highest type of technology they have at the moment. But Zayed, the dark, silent guy, the engineer, he discloses the secret that they're going to. They're working in his. He's part of a society where they're developing, steam engines, which is, something really new to this world and to this part of the world. So they're gonna not just be able to travel by cable cars, but perhaps by steamboats, by steam vehicles in great distances. Maybe even have not hot air balloons, but lighter than air crafts that will be steerable. So they're thinking they might be able to pass this area that's called the Phantom Barrier. It's this it'll be described later. This part of it's a natural phenomenon that's in the midst of Phantom Ocean, it's called. And it's just an amalgamation of strong cataclysmic winds, storms, tornadoes, impenetrable by the ships that had attempted to approach it. So this is where the chapter ends that I read up to this point. And chapter the 4th is about Tomas a little bit. It's called The Night Clock and Watch Store. The Night Clock. So I'm going to start reading from that chapter. So that was a little summary of the story until here. The Night Clock and Watch Store was located on the first level of a 4-story building on Conrad Street, a narrow road which winded through the busy city center between congested masses of stone and concrete as steaming fog labored to duly hover above it and make its way amongst the buildings. From the bulks of geysers did these fogs emerge. Oh yes, I forgot to mention in the first chapter, there are lots of geysers, and it just keeps producing all this steam, and everything is always in mist and fog. So that's something that kind of, otherwise it's a very lovely little porcelain-like city, very pretty. Everything is blue and white, and so, okay, that was just a little injection there. From the bulks of geysers did these fogs emerge. From rackety carriages did clouds billow. From the trampling soles of rushing feet did puffs of dust rise, and from the glowing end of a burning cigar did a tiny, misty stream pass the window of the watch store. Opposite the window, behind a desk of glass and wood, Under the high ceiling of the shop and among three walls covered with ticking clocks sat Thomas Knight, intensely absorbing his eyes in the scene of hurrying people. Soon enough his attention traversed from the dynamic shapes to a motionless figure, standing outside in front of the glass door of the store, smoking a cigar. After the examination of the man whose back was facing him, Thomas came to the conclusion that it was not his intention to leave the entrance any time soon, for he drew a freshly lit cigar to his face, inhaled its polluting substance, and allowed a long thread of fume to escape his mouth. "I'll wait for him to finish this one," thought Tom, "and then I'll kindly ask him to leave. What a thing to do, stand in front of a shop entrance. Well, not that it's a busy day, but it could still hinder a slight profit to come about." The quiet pulses of seconds clicked in stereo from the largest clock to the smallest watch. Those seconds reluctantly altered into minutes, when at long length the cigar was flicked by the man onto the center of the road and flattened by the wheels of a carriage. Though the cigarette was now only a memory of the past, the man continued to linger in front of the store, and presumably, with the face being unattainable, gazed dumbly into nothing. Tom now tapped his foot on the floor in a rhythm faster than the ticking of the clocks, and thought of the pleasantest manner in which to do so. What was it? Sorry, I rewrote this part. The ticking of the clocks. Felt with full weight his obligation of having to send the stranger his way, and thought of the pleasantest manner in which to do so. Okay, that makes sense now. See, I do these little. They strike them out, and then I type it up after I write it down. I love to write it down first before. When Tom reached the door and was about to open it, the man turned and left the premises. Thomas heaved a dejected sigh and scanned the all too familiar area of the store he had just turned back to. The ochre walls surrounded him like the barricades of an inescapable fort, while the ceaseless ticking of the clocks reminded him of the excruciatingly innumerable clicks he would still have to listen to before the day was over. It was 9:15 in the morning, and he had been there but 3/3 of an hour. 5 o'clock in the evening appeared to be as far from him as the distant shores of Soran. He dragged himself back to the counter and dropped into the chair behind it. Since Tom had already ascertained that all of the clocks and watches were showing the proper time before he had opened the shop, he needed not check each and every single timepiece again. This is a pretty long-winded description here of how slow the clock shop is. Nevertheless, in order to do something, he decided to repeat the examinations. If only they dramatically differed from each other, thought the man as his eyes moved from a large circular clock which had a thin black frame, white dial, black hands, and numerals, to the slightly smaller one of a solid oak frame. But the masterfully carved timepieces did differ from each other in regards to their sizes, shapes, and colors of frames and styles of painted numerals and hands. But the faces of the clocks on the left side wall were monstrously similar. The attractions of the right wall offered a more thrilling experience, for its many clocks ended in boldly swinging pendulums and were confined in metallic, walnut, and cherry wooden cases. Oh, but the wristwatches and pocket watches under the glass of his desk! The frozen, insipid yawns of those loathsome creatures gaped back at him in more humdrum manners than those expressed by the man who contemplated them. The perennial ticks growing unbearably more annoying by the minute, the clocks and watches whose characteristics could have been perfectly described with the most meticulous attention to detail by Thomas, had anyone asked for them, the settled state of idleness, slumbering as though it were never to wake, the closed door appearing never to open, all the hands of these present actualities passed over the eyelids of Tom and closed them. For this lively and exuberant character, days like the present, when few if any customers attended his good humour, were torturous. He would have preferred any other occupation where objects of sale did not remind him of time. Tom, because he's a clockmaker and he sells clocks and watches. Tom fortunately did not spend every working day in the shop, for he divided his time by alternating tasks with his father, Renard, who busied himself in the workshop situated on the second floor, creating or fixing timepieces along with other workers and apprentices. Either busy days with many shoppers or occupied hands with engaged attention were what offered Thomas some form of excitement. He was to succeed his father in this part of the establishment, one of the finest and most exclusive in all of Oudland. Renard Knight did not inherit the business from his ancestors, even though the name of the shop implied the contrary. He married into it by taking the beautiful Amelia Mercia for his wife. He had learned the crafts of clockmaking in the tradition of his own family, who owned a smaller business, and his skills were acceptable enough for his trade, but far from the talents of the Mercias. Mercias. The marriage on the outside seemed to be a lovely match, but the reality of it was much darker. It did not matter that Amelia was one of the most sought-after ladies of her elite circle and also one of the kindest. Renard's passion was kindled solely by the great fortune of the Mercia family. In vain did Amelia's parents warn against him. She found herself to be too much in love with the man, even now still considered to be an extraordinarily handsome man, to heed their advice. As she was the sole child and heir to the business, Renard obtained all he desired. He was a cold, calculating man, who showed little affection for his two children, if indeed he had any for them. It was also a badly kept secret that he had a lover, some common woman who worked at the assembly as a clerk. The assembly was also described. It's sort of the way the bureaucracy works. Thomas, in the meantime, had fallen asleep. In his dreams, he was examining clocks. He cast his eyes to a robust timepiece whose second hand was beating in prolonged rhythms. It seemed all of the clocks and watches. I hope this puts you to sleep. If you're still here, it's a pretty sleepy chapter. It seemed all of the clocks and watches were slowing down at the same time. Without warning, the incessant sounds of unified tapping stopped. Tom's eyes now darted from one hanging clock to the other as he eagerly waited for a sign of motion to emanate from any of them. They were equally lifeless. Their hands were alarmingly dead. He was about to take a step back from the counter when his ears were pricked by the renewed sounds of clicks. A sigh of relief was followed by a horrified gasp as Thomas realized the countless hands were spinning clockwise. That was certainly not the cause for his terror, but what stunned him to his spot was the expeditious speed in which those arrows were dashing around and around. 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock. The door burst open. Thomas almost fell off his chair as he woke up and saw that a figure was standing at the store entrance. "Welcome!" exclaimed Tom with a smile while he stood up. "Do come in," still trying to wake from his slumber. Now he woke up because someone came in. So he woke up from that dream where the clocks were spinning. The stranger made a slight nod. As he walked closer and revealed his figure and features, Tom was struck by his style of perfection. He was a man of 30, of average height, but his form was exquisitely shaped. From the top of his scrupulously fashioned brown hair, from his enchanting hazel eyes, his fine nose and perfectly shaped lips, from the meticulously and fastidiously trimmed mustache down to the polished... Oh my gosh, this is Doc. Sorry, there was no Doc before I wrote this. When I wrote this. Trimmed mustache down to the polished shine of his shoes, this man was all class and looked to be the very arbiter of fashion. A promising customer indeed were Tom's first thoughts. "This is the Knight and Clock watch store?" inquired the man. "Yes, of course. You have come to the very place." Tom was all smiles. The guest nodded again and took to walking around the shop to look at the displayed merchandise. His eyes wandered from one clock to another with a nod of approval here and a mutter of "fascinating" under his breath there. "Is there anything in particular you are looking for?" asked Tom. "A clock over your mantelpiece or a new pocket watch for your very nice coat?" He continued referring to the cerulean costume of satin. The customer sighed gently, took a few steps towards the cheerful lad and shook his head. "What I seek cannot be found here," was the reply that accompanied the graceful wave of his hands showing the area. But Tomas was not one to be easily deterred by this somewhat odd, if not dramatic, statement. "You are definitely looking for something custom-made," and with that, Tomas produced an intricately designed pocket watch in a gold case from under the glass counter. "We can custom design anything from open-face watches to hunter case watches. It can feature up to 33 complications, and no, my dear man," continued the mellifluous voice with a strange intonation. "You make my words sound as though they were some preposterously cryptic instructions of enigma. Am I to decode these words for you?" Tom was not silent for long, nor was he dissuaded, for he responded with, "Do you have a letter of referral?" "That, my friend, I do not," he said, and twisted the end of the curled mustache, a fashion rarely worn in Tidal. "But," he continued, "I have more than enough money to spare. You cannot find me lacking in that desirous department. Also, I have traveled from Sidlam for the express purpose of viewing them." Tom hesitated. This visitor evidently looked like a man of consequence, but then how was it that he had no recommendation? Also, he had traveled for this one end in mind all the way from Sidlam, the port city of the second district at the eastern shores called Capart. "If you could wait a few minutes, I'll return shortly," said Tom. After the man's haughty nod of approval, the clockmaker entered the back-room door, sent one of the apprentices to watch the shop and keep the guest company, and sought advice from his father. Tomas found no surprise at the easily swayed reluctance to give permission to customers without referral, as all that was needed to prevail upon Renard was to describe the guest's outward appearance, including the very expensive pocket watch adorning the chest of his coat. After having arranged a few more short tasks and spoken to some persons, Tomas returned to the store with a grandiose smile. "All I'll need from you is your name, occupation, and address," he said, writing on a white sheet with the logo of the business on the top. "And why do I sense a degree of hypnotizing humiliation? Never you mind. I am called Sebastian LeMay. I am an investor, and I occupy LeMay Manor, situated at 104 Norton Road, Sidlam. Will that suffice?" Tomas introduced himself and offered his hand, but was only replied to with a deprecating look. "Follow me," he sighed, and led Sebastian to a side door, which took them to another area of the building. So that's chapter 4, and I'm going to call it a night. I don't even know how to do a writing stream, honestly. This is my first time. I know there's like, you can do all kinds of things like I'd like to be able to see the writing as I read it, but I don't know how to do that yet. Really? You did? Thank you. I had worked on this a long time ago, actually, and I'm kind of like rewriting it, but I haven't written it for a few months now, but I'm thinking of maybe finishing it. But I work on other stuff too, so. Thank you so much for listening, Magdamil. That's so much appreciated. Because sometimes I just read and there's nobody. Well, so he's going to be taken to some kind of area in the shop that's kind of just for special people. Who knows where. Well, I hope you have a great night. And yeah, I want to see your stream tomorrow. It's fun. I don't know how to say goodbye. Wait, can I don't know if like I could, there's nobody to raid with a writing stream, is there? Who knows? Oh, I have like, cuz I'm rewriting an older book that I had that was never really finished either, but I'm kind of rewriting it into a little different it's very different from the original, like years and years ago that I wrote. And now it has about, how many pages? 100 so far. Yeah, and there's still so many characters to come. Yeah, no, it's a pretty big book. They're just like in the beginning. It's just starting. Yeah, there's lots of characters. It's interesting. There's going to be a lot of twists, so. Yeah, Caesar, welcome, though. I didn't even know you were around. Oh, really? That's nice. Yeah, I like to kind of like read and write when I wind down and have time. I've been a bit busy these past months and stuff to write, but I'd love to finish it. Oh, thank you. Caesar, did you see Doc? Now Doc ruined Sebastian, my character, for me. With the mustache. I really liked his character. I wrote it years and years ago, and the meticulous little mustache and everything, and now I'm just gonna see Doc. Just kidding. How did you like Star Wars? Yeah. There was 2 of them. Magdamil, you should see Doc. It's a companion in Star Wars. I think I've mentioned it before. It's pretty funny. Anyways, I'm gonna head out. It's too late. Yeah, you guys should try Star Wars. It's fun if you want to just kind of hit stuff and run around. There's lots of good stories in it. And great for like partying. And if you like them, I love the movies, so it's kind of like being a part of the Star Wars universe. It's set like 3,600 years pre the films. Anyway, I'm just blabbing on now. All right, I'm going to head out. Thank you again for joining, and have a lovely evening. And 9:30, 3:30. Okay, I'll remember that tomorrow. Bye.